Hi, everybody. This is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and you're listening to October's horoscopes. We're going to be looking at sun sign horoscope for Cancer today. This is October 2018. And you can always use these horoscopes for your rising sign as well as for your um, sun sign. Both work pretty well. Sometimes you can actually check out your moon sign as well. So at any rate, all of that being said, oops, still have Gemini up. There we go. Here's Cancer. The month really gets started for Cancers on October 2nd when you have Mercury getting together in a square with Pluto. Now, this is happening between your fourth and seventh houses, which means that the domestic sphere of life, communication, and maybe even technology within the domestic or private sphere of life, your home life or family life, and important relationships with other people, partnerships, marriage, are really pronounced. So you're going to notice that this is, it's a very important dynamic because you're looking at the potential for communication dynamics in both relationships and at home to be transformed perhaps for the better. There can be real breakthroughs in getting down to the bottom of things. You can find that you're able to address deeper dynamics in your relationships and at home. So you can look at family history. You can look at why different kinds of conflicts or tensions in your relationships exist in terms of ancestral karma and family history and family patterns. And it's a very deep transit for that kind of breakthrough in communication and understanding that can be very healing. There's also perhaps some sort of shift happening around your private life or your family life and your public life. The seventh house, even though it's related to marriage and relationships, also has a lot to do with just partnerships or, just public life in general. And so there's maybe some emphasis on how some kind of interchanges are being reflected externally, how others may be seeing you differently, or how others may come to know some different part of you more publicly because you're changing internally, or, God forbid, but it is possible that anything that you want to remain hidden or private on some levels may come out a bit. It may become more seen or more visible on some level. And while that could be uncomfortable, it could also help you to let go of something that's no longer serving you, or basically come to just come to a happier place. So you can get to the bottom of things really easily though with this transit. It's a deep transit for especially for communication, relationships, and things related to your home family space or living environment in general. You'd also look at this, I suppose, in relation to property and different kinds of changes you might be wanting to make in property. Let's see, we go forward here to October 6th, and this is the big one. Venus is turning retrograde. The last time Venus turned retrograde in Scorpio was the fall of 2010. You could go back, compare, and see what was going on back then. But Venus turning retrograde in the fifth house is the house of children. This is the house of creativity, sexuality, and on some levels, sex and romance, fun and pleasure. And you're looking at the perhaps some kind of healthy or maybe unhealthy rebellious phase related to pleasure. How do I find pleasure, joy, or happiness? And do I do it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way? Very big questions this month with Venus retrograde in your fifth house, which is quintessential house of pleasure. And so we all have complicated relationships to pleasure, right? Some unhealthy stuff, some healthy stuff. So it can also be about a creative renaissance. Fifth house is a very creative house. And so some kind of personal creative transformation that needs to take place. You want to be very careful of what you allow yourself to get obsessed with, or where your desires take you, because they could get you into a little bit of trouble. You want to be careful of unhealthy levels of flirtation or romance or sexual anything that's sexual or romantic that could be more intense than you bargained for. So be careful you're playing with fire is kind of maybe the message for the month a little bit. Also, changes or challenges surrounding your children, your relationships with your children, some new way of relating to your kids. It's a great time. Cancers are often, very domestic people that care about family a lot. So it's not a bad time to think about how you can adjust your relationships with your kids, doing things that are fun with your children, or, greater, children, and basically what you can do for your kids that would be a healthy new way of enjoying your relationship together. So that's, or weeding out things that have been unhealthy about your relationship with your kids if you have them. Things about pregnancy can come up pretty intensely. So, but overall, it's a potentially very creative time, and a time that will ask you to explore your relationships, especially with Venus retrograde and their relation to pleasure or even sexuality. So some things to think about there. October 8th, you're going to see a new moon getting together. Let's see, make sure I've got that right. Yeah, October 8th, the new moon will fall into Libra in the 4th down here. And that's a new moon, again, emphasizing something new that's growing in home or family. Sometimes that means you're moving. Sometimes that means you're having another kid. Sometimes that means that there are new things happening with a parent or parents. But there's a theme of newness and a new chapter starting in the home sphere of life this month. It's very powerful. And we can see this because over the next few days, watch what happens. On October 10th, we're going to see a very intense square between Venus in your 5th house and Mars in your 8th house, and simultaneously an opposition between Mercury and Uranus across the 5th and 11th house. So two very powerful transits coming through on October 10th. And what you're looking at with the Mars-Venus square is sexual or creative tension in relationships, looking at those deeper layers in relationships, looking at the taboo subjects creatively, romantically, with children, potentially some harder lessons around some of these themes we've been talking about: children, creativity, pleasure, joy, romance, sex, as well as value conflicts in relationships around, any of these things. And also, it's potentially a very productive time for getting down to the bottom of things, like really looking at things, being really real with one another, being really honest. But the Uranus Mercury opposition is it's a very electric kind of mental, intellectual, communicative moment where sudden breakthroughs, revelations, ideas, insights can kind of come pouring through and can be very disruptive, sort of eccentric or erratic, and can just appear on the scene and sort of surprise you. You have to be careful about sort of putting your foot in your mouth or doing or saying something that's taken in the wrong way and can really spiral. But also a great time for mental, intellectual, or communicative sort of inspiration, thinking outside of the box, and stuff like that. So I like that. This combination of transits, though, like circle October 10th on your calendar because it's going to be pretty intense. And then you go to October 11th, it doesn't get any less dramatic. You'll have the Sun in Libra in the 4th, squaring Pluto in the 7th, reiterating the same themes that we started October 2nd with: domestic, family, home things, and relationship things, and deep transformation, a lot of clarity, wisdom, and insight coming through. And things being revealed or exposed, and having to, basically deal with the deal with the things from the unconscious that we don't usually want to look at. They're going to be coming up around this time, and particularly maybe even in a way that's a little bit more social, with Pluto in the 7th house, which is a bit more visible above the horizon, and it's a more social place. So could be dealing with domestic things and relationship things from deep within or from the ancestral past sort of coming up, coming out, being more seen, more visible, or something from the home life being potential
the potential to heal something ancestral or family related. Very powerful here. Also, the question of authority, balance of power in relationships, and within the home place, all very, very powerful. Go forward to October 19th. Is it 19th? Yeah, October 19th. And you're going to see Mercury in Scorpio making a square to Mars in Aquarius in the 8th. This, again, has similar themes between the 5th and the 8th. It's talking about, thinking about, and verbally, mentally addressing things that are challenging or difficult. You're looking at potentially a transit that involves themes like mental, verbal, emotional abuse, mental, verbal, emotional power, intellectual prowess, depth. You're looking at the ability to talk and address things with an incisive, critical thinking mind. Could be very constructive and helpful. On the other hand, whatever we don't want to talk about or we don't want to look at, we may be confronted with in a way that's uncomfortable, especially emotionally. Trying to detach or deny things, not a good idea. And also, you're thinking about, what do I do for pleasure, fun, recreation, entertainment, joy, sexuality, like the things that you do to essentially make yourself happy. Are they all happy, or are they all healthy, I should say? And are they all really in your best interest? And this is a time where there could be some real consequences for reckless or careless behavior. You want to be very careful about what you say and how you're speaking your truth throughout the month, because there's a lot of truth that maybe want to come through with Venus retrograde, but Mercury opposite Uranus, Mercury square Mars, these are mentally combustible energies. So, and if you're on the receiving end and you're getting that from someone else, you just want to be really patient, and take things in and be careful not to react very, intensely right away to the things that come up. So, all right, so that's the 19th. And then we move to the full moon, which is on the 24th. And here we go. Well, actually, move it all the way around the wheel, get a better view. So on the 24th, we'll have a full moon across the 11th and 5th house axis. Now, I said that that Mercury-Uranus opposition was also from the 5th to the 11th. And one thing I didn't mention, thought I'd save for the full moon, is that the potential for some of these changes that we're talking about to also involve groups that you belong to, social circles, friends, organizations, larger community dynamics is also potentially there. Speaking out creatively, or taking a line that's sort of rebellious within a group of people, or within a larger organization, dealing with things that are difficult or challenging, things that you have to face philosophically or intellectually within groups of people. And you're also, Venus naturally rules in your solar chart your house of friends and social groups and organizations. And so creative conflicts that you find that you're having within groups right now may be also related to your love life at the same time somehow. That could be possible. Value differences in your relationships could also be social. How are you or a loved one differing in terms of your friends, groups that you belong to, that you do or don't want to belong to? That's all another possibility. This is also a great time for kind of creative inventiveness and breakthroughs within group dynamics. And again, for maybe some element of sort of sexual or creative revolution, doing things that are very different or outside of the box, romantically, or yeah. And again, this is also something that could have to do with your children's relationships, or something about child rearing itself, or something like that. So those are it's a diverse set of topics, but remember that the houses are pretty multivalent. They contain a lot of different topics. So the 24th of the full moon through the end of the month, Venus will also be opposite Uranus, and it's a wild culmination. So everything we've talked about this month for you, Cancers, is really culminating between October 24th and the 30th. All these changes that are sort of churning throughout the month will really sort of blast off the very last part of the month. So yeah, that's what I've got for you. I hope this was interesting. I'd love to hear your comments on the transits as the month goes on. Feel free to comment on the YouTube page in the comment section. That'd be cool. Otherwise, we will talk to you guys next month for November's horoscopes. Take care. Bye.